everyone. I've talked about this quite a bit, and today, once again, I'm going to bring up this topic about what Dr. Devra Davis, the Nobel Prize winner, has talked about the dangers of radiation and the dangerous push for more technology in school. So, if you have watched the documentary Generation Zapped, it gives you a lot of information about the effects, the harmful effects of radiation on our physical and our mental health that are coming from all these microwave and these cell phone radiations that are all around us. So let's look at this, the dangerous push for more technology in schools. I've highlighted a few very important pieces that you must take note. There are something called the Title I schools in America, which are located in some of the poorest neighborhoods in the country. So this is President Lyndon Johnson's initiative to create Title I schools where they have special funding to enhance the quality of education programming and community engagement. They are unfortunately trying their best, but these locations where Title I schools are, they are riddled with violent crime, environmental contamination, and limited expectations, and disproportionately jailed teens from these schools. I have some very good friends and neighbors who actually work in Title I schools, and I know these women who actually buy breakfast and lunches to all these poor kids because they simply cannot afford to eat breakfast in the morning and come to school. So these are the kind of schools that we are talking about. So enter technology, and she calls it the Trojan horse of public education, where there was this mad rush in the last 1 decade to introduce free digital technology and virtual reality in the form of toys by companies like Verizon, Google, Microsoft. There's so many companies that even both my children who are in middle school and high school, they get free devices from their schools because that is where all the homework, the lesson plans, they just simply don't use a pen and a paper anymore. It's very rarely that they get assignments that are printed out on paper, and there's some graph sheets for math, maybe some literature, some essay writing here and there, but pretty much all their work is done in their laptops. So I'll explain to you as we go along what the problem with that is. She actually takes care of a lot of issues that we wonder about and worry about. And here, these companies have donated hundreds of millions in educational resources with no recognition that microwave wireless radiation should not be used close to the brains of young children. The most funny part is people say that what radiation? Is there any proof? Is there any scientific research that substantiates the fact that there is a problem with radiation from devices, from our personal devices, because we're keeping them so close to the body? What are the harmful effects? There is no proof. I haven't seen anything, right? But here WebMD has a very good article. The link is from here, this particular link I've clicked, and here if you see, it just boggles your mind. It substantiates it with so many journals and papers, white papers and everything about the harmful effects of microwave radiation that is emitted by all these cell phone radiation. So it's just amazing the amount of cancer, the amount of physical and mental damage that these devices do to our bodies is just unbelievable. So I'll put a link to this as well. Right now let's look at this. So here, the growing production of younger and younger e-zombies, that is what we are calling our little children. Their vision also suffers from focusing on screens, with growing numbers of children needing eyeglasses at younger and younger age. And this is what I've been seeing for the past 10 years. Kids just, some of the teenagers have the eyesight of a 60-year-old. That is what eye doctors are telling them right now. It is just so scary and sad. Scrolling down a little bit more, you can see that the younger brains with thinner skulls and more porous bone marrow absorb proportionately more wireless microwave radiation. If this is not scary, I don't know what is. Prenatally exposed animals produce offsprings with altered brains and more damage to their testicles and other reproductive organs. There is other information that this a psychiatrist Victoria Dunkley. There is other information that vivid images flashing before young eyes from small screens elicit states of hyperarousal. That is the problem, right? There's so much of problem with attention deficit disorders right now, because if you are so stimulated online, how will you keep up with the slow pace of the real world? Boosted by dopamine and other feel-good neurotransmitters, brains of toddlers and youngsters easily succumb to powerful addictive feedback loops. They continuously keep on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and that rush, the threshold of the rush that they get every time it just keeps increasing. And so yesterday what you scrolled for 2 hours, today even if you scroll for 4 hours, you won't get that dopamine rush. So that is the problem with addictive feedback loops. And these are all these things about social media. There's nothing social about it, and they're not encouraging a stronger social bond at all, as we can see. So again, the physical, how they are physically manifesting is attention deficit disorders, depression, headaches, eye strain, and hearing problems. So let's go here. The slow, steady erosion of handwriting. There is a Harvard study. Here it is. A Harvard report that those who take notes with computers retain less information than their old-fashioned peers that depend on basic note-taking. So, of course, she says that we need our children to become digital netizens, but the capacity to use technological tools is best introduced after the basic skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic have been mastered. So, as we know, even as adults, we struggle with this compulsive, addictive behaviors around technology, right? And can you imagine teenagers and children trying to deal with them when they have their own classes going on and teacher is teaching? Now what is happening is they have this compulsion to multitask and the draw of pornography and games, and a number of university professors are already banning the use of computers during their classes. We live in Fulton County in Atlanta, in Georgia, and I've been very, very happy since the beginning of the school. There has been a notice saying that kids cannot use technology in their classrooms because it is extremely disruptive, and it has just been such a great victory for all of us parents. There are still parents who are like, what if my child has an emergency? We should just think of it like this, right? How did children reach out to parents when there was an emergency in the past, just like 5 or 10 years ago? Our kids will survive. The most important thing is to protect our little ones' brains. That is the most important thing here. Okay, so here, as you can see in conclusion, she says the free gifts of virtual reality cardboard holders for smartphones targeting Title I schools and the offer of 5G networks come with many invisible strings that should give us all pause. Okay, as they say, if there is something free, you are paying with it with your attention. So beware those who advocate for virtual education. Of course, she wrote this article much before the pandemic, and for 2 years I have been teaching virtually, and without virtual education this would not have been possible, but we wouldn't have been able to ride out the pandemic. But the point is, this mass technological wave of free gadgets and free Wi-Fi around the schools, courtesy of all these big tech companies, is something that we have to ask about. Thank you.